Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Should I already share my screen or I should wait for in a few minutes?
No. You can be there in the screen itself. Okay, ma'am.
So I can share my presentation already?
No. I have
Not
to
yet.
introduce you.
Okay.
Yes. I will
Of
tell
course.
you.
Okay, later. Okay. Thank you so much.
So good afternoon to all of you. Hope I am audible to all of you. Today is 63rd Shiksha and Anusandhan Fortnightly Academic Lecture and the 13th lecture of the Integrated Maritime Studies and Research Series. We are fortunate to have amongst us today's speaker, Dr. Alexandra Jaskulska from the Department of Regional and Global Studies, Faculty of Political Science and International Studies, University of Warsaw, Poland. Welcome you, ma'am, to this prestigious lecture series. Now, I have the privilege of introducing you to today's speaker, Alexandra Jaskulskaya, PhD and Assistant Professor in the Department of Regional and Global Studies at the Faculty of Political Science and International Studies, University of Warsaw. She has participated in the European Union funded projects, Center for Contemporary India Research and Studies, India European Union Joint House for Science and Innovation, Eurasian Insights Strengthening Indo-Pacific Studies, co-author of Handbook on Indo-Pacific Studies, Route List 2023. Her research interests includes international relations in the Indo-Pacific region, the influence of domestic factors on the foreign policy of South Asian states, India's aspiration to measure power status. And today's topic is European Union's diplomacy towards the Indo-Pacific. Ma'am, as there is an interview going on and the Vice Chancellor is busy in the interview, so he has sent his good wishes and message to you. So I think just let me tell you about the constitution of the audience. The audience includes bachelor's and master's students of almost all kinds of disciplines: engineering, pharmacy, law, medicine, dental sciences, then hotel management. And also we have got volunteers from National Service Scheme, faculties, deans, and also outsiders. And gradually the audience will be going on increasing. So without much ado, let me request today's speaker to kindly deliver the today's oration on EU's diplomacy towards the Indo-Pacific. Welcome you, ma'am.
Welcome. Thank you so much, first of all, for invitation. It's a great pleasure and honor to be a speaker during such a wonderful event, which has a already long history. And as I saw, it was a lot of distinguished speakers before me. So I feel very honored. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for introducing. As it was already presented, I'm from University of Warsaw, and my major area of research is exactly what I'm going to talk about. So I will going to allow myself to share my screen. So all of the participants will be able to see the PowerPoint presentation, which are prepared for today. Of course, we're going to talk about European Union's, EU's diplomacy towards the Indo-Pacific. I decided to choose this slide for the first slide because here what you can see in the front, those are the buildings of the University of Warsaw. We are one of the oldest universities in Poland. We started in the beginning of 19th century. But why this photo is so important for me? Because the university, as you can see, there are buildings from the 19th century, but in the background, you can see our city center, which we call the Little Manhattan. We know that this is very little still, but we see modern Warsaw in the back with very, very traditional and old university, which I have pleasure to represent. I would like to also share that I had a pleasure to be in India for the first time in my life in 2003. So this year I have my 20th anniversary since my first visit to India, and I'm very lucky to travel to India on very frequent basis. So before the COVID-19 pandemic, I was visiting India 2-3 times a year. So I hope that it will be possible maybe during my next visit that I will be also able to deliver a lecture, but in person at your university.
Yes.
I went through the website and it's so interesting. You do such amazing programs and wonderful initiatives. So I was very amazed that you decided to invite me as a guest speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's very nice. Okay, so with no further ado, of course, we're going to focus on European Union and Indo-Pacific. Here, what you can see is the flag of European Union, but of course, inside we see Indo-Pacific. So this flag was launched in 2021 as a symbol of the strategy of European Union towards the Indo-Pacific. But before we're going to go to the point of the EU strategy and Indo-Pacific, I would like to tell briefly how I organize my speech. So first of all, I would like to say just a few words about the European Union itself. Then I would like to mention in few sentences why Indo-Pacific and especially India is very important for European Union. Then I'm going to focus briefly on the outline of EU-India relations. And then I'm going to go to the point of EU strategy towards the Indo-Pacific. What you can see on the slide, those are the member states of European Union. As I'm sure you are aware, we have less members than, for example, 4 years ago, right? Because United Kingdom decided to leave the European Union. That was the first situation in the history of the EU when the state decided to withdraw its membership. Of course, it was
sorry,
the referendum.
Sorry, ma'am. Have you started sharing the slides?
Yes, I started.
But it is not visible.
I'm sorry. So let me do it one more time. Just a second. Apologies for that. Just a moment. I'm going to do it one more time. Can you see my presentation now?
No. Otherwise, I think you can leave and rejoin again. Somehow the slides are not visible.
Okay, so just a second. I'm going to rejoin to the meeting in the moment. The Pacific. And here on this slide, you can see the map now, right, with the member states?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. So, as I mentioned, here you can see the countries which are the members. That will be in the dark blue. We have one country which recently departed. So that's, of course, February 2020, when United Kingdom decided to leave the EU. Of course, it was based on the referendum conducted in 2016. Interestingly, European Union, it's all the time in the process of enlargement. So as the European Union, we are willing to accept new member states. And these states you can see in light blue as official candidates or very light blue recognized as a potential candidates. So we are still missing some of the states in the Europe which are not members of the EU, mostly Western Balkans and Turkey. For now, negotiations with Turkey are freezed. Yeah, so there are no more negotiations as for this moment about the EU. So that's the situation for 2023. But the European Union itself was started much earlier. The very beginnings will be already in 1950s when the European Committee of Steel and Coal was created. So when I will be talking about European Union, I will be talking about the current stage with the member states you can see in dark blue on the slide. I'm sure that you're very aware about the concept of Indo-Pacific. We know already about the EU, how many member states we have, yes, that UK left. But the Indo-Pacific is definitely new concept comparing to the European Union. Before having Indo-Pacific region, of course, we had Asia-Pacific region. So Asia-Pacific region, you can see the countries which are marked in orange. Yeah? So that was the concept introduced in the late 1960s and the early 1970s. Only quite recently, in last 10 to 15 years, the scholars who do research on this part of the world, they started to use the concept of Indo-Pacific. And obviously, it's very hard to define what exactly Indo-Pacific is, because different countries, but also different organizations, like, for example, European Union, have a different definitions what Indo-Pacific is. But what we know for sure, that Indo-Pacific is a bigger concept, bigger region than Asia-Pacific. And what is crucial for us, definitely, is that India became a very important part of the concept of the Indo-Pacific. And now I have a question to you. You can answer on chat or speak up if you wish to. You can see the statement on the slide. There are more people living inside this circle than outside of it. It is a fact or a myth? What do you think? Or is it true or false? What do you think?
I think it's true.
Yes, you are very right. It's very true. So definitely there are more people living inside the circle than outside of it. And this is one of the reasons why European Union is so interested in Indo-Pacific, and of course in India particularly, because the region of Indo-Pacific has a huge demographic potential. I'm sure that I don't need to tell you that India now has the biggest population in the world, and it surpassed already China, but altogether, the region have more people than any other part of the world. Yeah, so for this reason, this demographic potential, it is important for European Union. When we're going to look at this map, you clearly see that the countries have very strange shape, I would say. Yeah, you can have a look at that the place where Russia is supposed to be. We have green China. Only the small part of yellow Russia is there. Mongolia nearly disappeared. India is huge. Also, India's neighbors are bigger than on the regular map. So in this map, each little square represents 1 million people. So basically, the size of the country on this map is based on the size of the country population. So again, here we have the evidence when we see huge India, huge Bangladesh, then Nepal is obviously much bigger, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on. Yeah, so the demographic potential is definitely there. Of course, you know, with such a big population, there are a lot of challenges, of course, a lot of opportunities. But as I mentioned, EU is interested in Indo-Pacific because its population, big market to sell its goods and also to buy goods from this market and services. But on this map, we can see the population density. So basically, the number people per square kilometer of land area. As you can see, in the Indo-Pacific region, the color is dark red. Yeah, so we have somewhere from 200 to more than 1,000 people on 1 square kilometer. When you look at the countries located in European Union, you will see that some of them also have the very high population density. The very dark countries will be Benelux countries, so the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, but also some parts of UK. Yeah, they will have a very high population density. So that's another important thing for the EU, because we also have our challenges, how to deal with such a huge population density. So we can exchange good practices between the countries in the Indo-Pacific and the member states of the European Union. The next thing, which is very crucial and is connected to demography, It's the median age. Basically, the median age, that's the age of the population. Yeah? So when we have, let's say, median age 25, it means that 50% of the population is above or below 25. You can see the colors explained on the corner of the map. So in Europe, in European Union to be more precise, we have a lot of dark colors. So our median age is very high, 40 to 45, or even above 45. So we are basically becoming aging societies. Yeah? When we look at the Indo-Pacific, most of the countries are still relatively young. Of course, we have some exceptions. I'm sure you know that Japanese and South Korean society is becoming very old, but many other countries are still young. Of course, India is one of the champions here. Yeah, I'm sure you also know that India has the biggest workforce in the world. Yeah, you are very young still, between 25 to 30. That's the median age. That's the median age of also some other countries located in Indo-Pacific. So EU is really interested into attracting migrants from Indo-Pacific, so they will be eager to come to European Union and work in EU. Because of course, when the migrants will work in EU, they're gonna pay taxes, they're gonna support our system. Of course, they are also gonna have benefits, yeah? But what we are lacking now in the European Union is the workforce. We need more workforce, and we know that Indo-Pacific offers a lot of excellent people who are well educated, they know languages, so we will be more than happy to welcome them to our system, yes, to make our median age a bit lower, what will be, of course, in plus for our economic situation. And here I would like to show you the graph from one of the institutions, which is called Pew Research Center. Probably you already used the data produced by Pew Research Center, but if you haven't, I really encourage you to visit their website, Pew Research Center. They do amazing research based on data delivered by worldwide recognized institutions, like in this case, United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, which publish World Population Prospects. And here we can see clearly, when we start in 1955, that Asia was responsible for 63% of babies born. What we see now, of course, it is decreased, yeah, because the Asian states or Indo-Pacific states are becoming more and more developed. The number of kids is decreasing, yeah, but still Asia has this amazing demographic potential. What we can see here, that Europe in 1955 was responsible for 12%. But what we see in case of Europe is a strong decrease, yeah? And now the line with Europe is nearly steady, with the tendency even to decline later, yeah? In Asia, yes, it is also declining, but still the number is so much bigger. And one more important fact about this graph, of course, this is demographic potential of Africa. Maybe you are aware that now the population of Africa is around 1 billion people, and till 2100, it will reach around 4 billion. So the population explosion, which Asia witnessed in the mid of the last century, now it will happen exactly the same in Africa in 21st century. But to sum up the demographic factor, I would like to underline one more time that the demographic potential of Indo-Pacific is widely recognized by the European Union. And of course, it is also connected with the relatively low median age, so it means very big workforce. Here what you can see is GDP per capita, data from 2021. What we can see here, that the GDP per capita in EU is still higher than in Indo-Pacific countries in general. But of course, it doesn't mean that in some parts, or in some countries of Indo-Pacific, the GDP will not be higher than in European Union. But why I wanted to show this map is to show that because of this fast development of economies in the Indo-Pacific, EU is even more interested in economic, but also cultural, scientific, of course, political cooperation with those countries. As we are talking a lot of Indo-Pacific, and of course we cannot forget about India when we talk about Indo-Pacific, I'm sure you clearly know that the size of Indian economy is growing every year, and India is already recognized as the 5th biggest economy. So we have now more than one economy from Indo-Pacific in top 5 of the biggest economies in the world. So clearly, if EU still wants to be important player in global politics, it needs to cooperate stronger with Indo-Pacific. And here I would like to tell briefly about the India-EU relations. So last year, we have very important anniversary because in 1962, there was the official relations between India and European communities were established. The very beginning of the EU dates back to 1950s, but the official name European Union came only in the 1990s after the Maastricht Treaty. But anyway, we treat the European communities obviously as a part of European Union, so we had this important anniversary of the 60 years of establishing official relations last year. During the Cold War, not too much, to tell you the truth, was happening between India and the EU. First of all, European Union was still under the process of creation. We had a lot of struggles between the states who were creating the European Union to decide to accept new members or maybe no. So that was a big struggle from European Union. And also important factor was that India during the Cold War was closer related to USSR than Western Europe. Obviously Western Europe, which started the European Union, was closer related to United States. So the Cold War was a difficult moment for EU and India because we were not interested in each other. We were struggling with our internal issues. Plus, we directly or indirectly were supporting different powers during the Cold War. But after the end of the Cold War and the transformation of India economy in 1991, there was a new energy in relation between India and the EU. So we see some important declarations, agreements signed, as you can see on the slide, 1994. Then one of the important factors in the development of the EU-India relations, definitely China. As we talk about global politics without India, we also cannot talk about global politics without China. So this EU-China summit was held in 1998, and it gave more dynamics for relations both from the EU side. In fact, we have first EU summit in Portugal. So it was a very important step. It's year 2004 when India and the EU decided to sign strategic partnership. I call this period from 2000 to 2007, I call this period the honeymoon period. Why? Because everyone was very excited about cooperation, both from India and from the EU side. The first summit, then strategic partnership, and then in 2006 had a bit of, I would say, challenges. These challenges were mostly created by the lack of understanding from both sides what we really want to achieve. Yeah? We managed to have the summits every year till 2012. But then in 2013, 14, and 15, there were no summits. Also, the negotiation on free trade agreement were freezed in 2013. So again, lack of understanding, lack of resources, and sometimes lack of will on both sides. Again, let me underline, both the EU and India. Both India and the EU had a bit of a different priorities at that time. And again, 2016 and 2017, we have two summits, but unfortunately, then again, we have a gap. And only 2020, we have both parties were not so much interested anymore in such a close cooperation. Since 2020, we can clearly see that relations between the India and the EU are getting stronger. Unfortunately, India and the EU did not manage to organize a summit in 2022, but in 2022, we have Ursula von der Leyen, so the leader of the European Union, who visited New Delhi, and she was a keynote speaker during Raisina Dialogue. And I would like to show you two quotes, one from 2020 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So that was the EU-India summit, of course. He said that India and the EU are natural partners, our partnership also useful for peace and stability in the world. And then the quote from Ursula von der Leyen when she gave her speech in Raisina Dialogue. And she said again that we are natural partners who thrive a world in the common rules and fair competition. Yeah? So we see that the rhetorics from both sides are very positive, recognized by India and the EU. And definitely what we are waiting now is the time to, really show that the words can be turned into some doing. Yeah. So that's definitely very crucial nowadays. That's the screenshot from the summit in 2020. Obviously, it was conducted online due to COVID pandemic. And the last summit, which was EU-India leaders meeting, conducted in 2021. Let me underline that at that time, again, during the pandemic, member states have their representatives, to be part in the meeting. And now I would like to talk a bit about this strategy, the strategy of European Union towards the Indo-Pacific. And the strategy was announced, as you can see, in September 2021. That was a bit difficult because the Indo-Pacific concept already in 2021 in September was widely recognized by different players. I'm sure you know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he gave a speech at the Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018, he was talking a lot about Indo-Pacific, the importance of Indo-Pacific. He also in some way, described what Indo-Pacific means for India. And many countries and organizations were presenting their strategies. So the EU, I would say, was a bit late. 2021 September was late to present the strategy. But anyway, I'm very happy that finally the strategy was adopted. Maybe just to mention, before the EU itself presented the strategy, we have 3 member countries from the EU which we decided to announce the strategy before. So the first one was France. And France announced its strategy towards Indo-Pacific in 2018. I believe that for you it will be not that the big surprise, because India have a very strong and well-established relations with many countries of the Indo-Pacific. For example, India is definitely France's strategic partner in Indo-Pacific when we talk about security and arms trade. I'm sure you know about the jet fighters Rafale, which were bought by Indian government, and many other initiatives of this kind. The next country from the European Union to announce the strategy on Indo-Pacific was Germany. France was 2018, 2020, Germany. And again, German government did it for the same reason as France. Yeah, Germany also have a big cooperation in the security and arms trade, but also very important economic cooperation plus cultural. And the last country which decided to announce the strategy before the European Union itself was the Netherlands. And Netherlands also announced the strategy in 2020. But let's go back to the strategy of the European Union. There are 7 priorities, or rather priority areas for the EU actions when we talk about Indo-Pacific. I would say that this is nothing surprising or groundbreaking, yeah? I think if you even didn't know really what is there, you will be able to name at least 4 or 5, yeah? So the first one, as you can see, is sustainable and inclusive prosperity. Then the next one, which is becoming more and more important, is green transition. Then we have something what is very crucial, and it was definitely crucial before, is ocean governance. Because both India and the Indo-Pacific, they put huge emphasis on the fact that Indo-Pacific should be open for everyone. Yeah? Is the fair and open Indo-Pacific. The fourth one is digital governance and partnership, and then connectivity. Connectivity obviously was there before between EU and the Indo-Pacific, but the connectivity we had, it's not really good comparing to this what China managed to achieve thanks its Belt and Road Initiative. So EU and India are working really close together to build connectivity, which will be not that much against or really competing with Belt and Road Initiative, but rather to have a bit at least similar possibilities, yeah, to transport goods, exchange services, and so on. I'm sure you were closely watching at the G20 summit, which obviously were hosted by India in Delhi. And one of the agreements is about building a corridor, right, between the Indo-Pacific, India, Middle East, and Europe. Yeah. So obviously that's also part of the connectivity. And just to add on connectivity, when Ursula von der Leyen was giving a keynote speech at the Raisina Dialogue in 2022, she was also promoting the connectivity initiative, which was launched by the EU not that long time ago, really. It is a global gateway. So Global Gateway is now a flagship program of connectivity by the European Union. And obviously, EU wants Indo-Pacific to be part of this initiative, Global Gateway. And of course, a very important issue, security and defense, which is very crucial to support some other priorities like ocean governance, to secure connectivity. When we talk about security and defense, you may think, okay, EU wants to work on security and defense, but the European Union does not have an army. And you are right, yeah? EU does not have an army. Obviously, the member states have their own armies, but as the organization, we do not have an army. So how are we going to work then on security and defense? Of course, we can exchange good practices. We can have joint trainings, joint drills. It is all possible, yeah, with the member states. And also, important thing here, what we need to remember, that the EU member states, nearly all of them are part of NATO. Yeah, so it is the EU a bit plus NATO here in this. We also need to remember about this. And last but not least, also very important priority will be human security. Yeah? To work on human security, to exchange good practices. If you want to read this joint communication on the EU's Indo-Pacific strategy. It is available online. It have only a few pages. It is quite interesting document, I would say. But what I wanted also to drag your attention, except talking about the 7 priorities, it is about, I would say, some narratives, from the EU side. In the European Union, after the Lisbon Treaty, we got the new position. It is the Foreign Affairs and Security, the High Representative of the EU for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. For now, it is Joseph Borrell. And Joseph Borrell, he many times underlined that the Indo-Pacific region is the future and must become a strategic priority for the EU. And when I was reading, to tell you the truth, more than once, this strategy, I was also paying attention to this, how many times which country is mentioned in the strategy. As you can see here, I made a bit of the sum up. And India
Use maritime diplomacies with the littoral countries of the Mediterranean seas?
So maybe first I would like to talk a bit about the first part of the question. Yes, that's very true. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, as probably you're aware, European Union criticized a lot. This what happened. We are very against, as the EU, also as the member countries, most of us, what happened. So obviously, the countries in the EU want to stop buying oil and gas from Russia. But it's not that easy. If you are so much dependent on something, you cannot do it overnight. Yeah, so that's a big challenge. For this reason, we are looking for the different sources to buy oil, gas. Yeah, US is one of the sources, definitely. So we are buying from them as the EU. But I would say we are increasing the natural resources we are buying from the Middle East, Northern Africa. But to come back to US, we buy not only because we need US oil and gas, but also we need to remember that the United States is still the most important country, the member of NATO. So most of things we have in NATO are because of US support, US money, US soldiers. Even in Poland, new military base was opened close to Rzeszów, that's the city close to Ukraine. So US is the core of NATO, yeah? So we are buying oil in some way to say thank you, with money to US for support, yeah? So that would be the one thing. But as I said, EU is not only buying from US, but also from other countries, even from Venezuela. Even though there was embargo on Venezuela oil because of the crisis in Venezuela, now we're also buying from Venezuela. And interestingly, we are buying a bit from India. And we know that India is buying this oil from Russia, obviously. But when it's from India, we buy it, yeah? So officially not from Russia, but everybody knows that this is from Russia, yeah? Because it's not that easy just to invent new source of energy or to buy from someone else, yeah? Talking about a Mediterranean Sea, that's very tricky for the EU because in the Mediterranean Sea, the biggest challenge we have now is definitely the situation in Northern Africa, in Maghreb. And after the Arab Spring, many of the countries in Northern Africa became very unstable. So we have a very big influx of migrants, mostly from Libya, or rather going through Libya, because Gaddafi is not there for so many years. So there's a challenge of migrants. There are not that really challenge of piracy or things like this. It is rather the eastern coast of Africa, right? The Horn of Africa. But we are trying to cooperate with Turkey as much as possible. And of course, to build a common strategy with the countries from Maghreb. But again, not all of them are so willing to cooperate, the same like Turkey. So we need to convince them with money. And we are lucky that we still have a lot of money in the EU we can use to convince some partners which are not that convinced to work with us on our basis. Yeah, but I would say that yes, definitely that will be a big challenge, both the energy resources and the maritime sea countries. And just to add, I think we are all know already that the war in Ukraine will not stop soon. EU will need to deal with these challenges in coming months. So I'm sure that that will be one of the priorities of the soon newly elected European Parliament.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. It was such an absorbing talk followed by such scintillating questions from the audience. We are really extremely grateful to you for delivering this lecture and finding your time. So we'll be in touch with you. So on behalf of the university, I am again expressing our deepest gratitude to you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure. Thank you for wonderful opportunity and really great question. Very to the point. I'm really impressed with the question. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely, lovely afternoon. Goodbye. you.